make this short and sweet. Tim Ryan is a Democrat who represents Ohio's 13th congressional district, which includes Youngstown, Warren, Kent, parts of Akron, Cuyahoga Falls, and the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. He's represented the district since 2003. He is a member of the very powerful House Appropriations Committee. Ryan holds a JD from the University of New Hampshire School of Law. He also holds a BA in Political Science from Bowling Green State University. He was an aide to Representative Jim Traficant and served in the Ohio Senate from 2001 to 2002 before succeeding Traficant. Ryan is a native of Niles and lives in Howland with his wife Andrea and their 3 kids. Join me in welcoming Congressman Tim Ryan to the stage.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Always, I got to walk in with Mayor Horgan. I want to thank him for his leadership here in the city. It's always exciting to share the St. Patrick's Day parade with my fellow Irishmen, so that was always fun. And Eileen Shapiro, who is, I don't know if she's here or not, but wanted to give her a shout out as well. You are very lucky here in Akron. We work with a lot of communities across the United States. And I will just say that the level of collaboration that happens in Summit County and Akron stands out among many of the communities that we work with. And I'm not saying that there aren't any issues, there's not some drama, but when it's time to come together, as you just did in Washington, D.C. just a couple days ago, it was a collaboration of public-private partnerships, city, county government, moving forward with the educational institutions, both the University of Akron, Stark State, and the local school district coming together around the big vision for Akron. That's how you get things done. So congratulations for that. Unfortunately, we don't have that level of collaboration happening in Washington, D.C., as you may notice. And I want to just talk for a little bit, because we have question and answers. I want to talk for a little bit about what I see as some of the real pressing challenges that we have as a country, and a little bit about what we need to do moving forward. And then we can open it up for questions and actually get into some of the details of the issues, as I prefer that you all drive the conversation and not just me. We are living at a time where we need to secure America's future. There's so much volatility in business, in government, in politics, at both the state, local, and federal levels. And we're trying to function in systems that, in my estimation, are broken. They were built for a time that no longer exists. The big, large, slow-moving institutions are now forced to regulate, compete, enhance, and integrate with a business environment, a technological environment that is moving almost at the speed of light. At least it seems that way. And so our systems around balancing budgets today in America is a very broken system. We have a $20 trillion debt in the United States, and we are projected to have $1 trillion a year deficits, 1 trillion with a T, deficits in the coming years, projected out into the future, to the point where our government will be paying more a year on interest on our debt than that we will be for our Defense Department. The student loan debt is $1.5 trillion. We see it when it comes to income. That system is broken. Income inequality is at the highest levels it's been since the Great Depression. 30 or 40 years ago, a CEO would make about 30 to 1 versus the person working on the factory floor or in the business. Now the average CEO in America makes about 350 to 400 to 1 for the average person. If Over 90% of income growth over the last 30 years has gone to the top 10% of the wealthiest people in the country. And we have 51% of our public school students in the United States live in poverty. 51%. And all the challenges that come with that. Our education systems are broken. U.S. ranks 27th in math, 20th in science out of the top 34 countries in America, in the world. And check this out, trying to get ready for the future. 65% of newly attending primary school students, 65%, will work in jobs that do not yet exist. This is the speed that things are changing. We look at the inability for us to address climate. We're going to have a 6-degree increase in the heat, 6 degrees Celsius increase in the heat of the planet, temperature of the planet in the next 70 years. We have algae blooms in the Great Lakes, algae blooms at Lake Okeechobee down in Florida, and they tell us, many EPAs in the States tell us, you can eat fish out of our streams and rivers, but don't eat more than 2 a month. Now, I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I would tend to not eat fish out of a river where I can only eat 2 of them a month, because I'm just going to assume there's something wrong with the fish in the river. These are our rivers. You look at the healthcare system and how broken that is. We spend 2.5 times all of the other industrialized countries, and we get the worst results. We spend about $327 billion a year on diabetes, and we have now half the population in the United States has either diabetes or pre-diabetes. And if you have diabetes, as some may have in this room, it is 2.3 times the amount for your health care, or that person's health care, than it is for someone without diabetes. We continue to see a racial influence in our criminal justice systems, where African Americans are charged with crimes with more punishment when the same crime, in essence, is committed by a white person. We are seeing that in crack cocaine punishments versus powdered cocaine, where the punishment is greater on crack. When you see the marijuana laws, when white people use the same amount of marijuana as African American people, and yet black people go to prison 4 times more for that crime than white people. That's a broken criminal justice system. We see the broken immigration system every single day in the United States with this debate that we're having versus a wall, versus technology, versus immigration reform, because the system is broken. And lastly, let me just say, with our veterans, we lose 22 vets a day in the United States to suicide. Heartbreaking here in the United States. And at the same time, 49,000 jobs at the Department of Veterans Affairs go unfilled. Unfilled. And 43,000 of those are in the healthcare portion of the Vets Administration. These systems are broken. And we can't fix them because we are so divided. These are colossal challenges for our country. And how we think that one tribe on the left or one tribe on the right is going to be able to solve these problems is borderline insanity. Or that we all have to choose. And this is where we're living today. You got to pick a side, right? You got to pick a team, which I'm kind of used to. It's like Browns or Steelers, right? I mean, I'm used to having to kind of pick when it comes to sports. But when you're talking about the major issues of the day, And we've taken them and we've distilled them down to a level of simplicity that impedes our ability to fix the very problems and challenges that our society faces. You have to either be with business or you're with the worker. You're either for the government or you're for the private sector. You got to either be with the cops or the kids of color. You either got to be for border security and the wall, or you're for immigration reform and a pathway to citizenship. I don't know how you feel. I'm exhausted with the whole thing. Having to pick, having to choose sides against fellow Americans who may have a different point of view. And I present this to you as a challenge, as I present it to myself and everyone else I talk to. The great challenge in the United States today is, can we get along with each other enough to actually sit down and this list that I put together, this list that I could have kept going but didn't want to take up the whole afternoon for you, can we get along enough to solve these problems? I believe that we can if we stop falling into these false choices that we have to make. And that's the challenge. It's to understand and listen to what people are actually going through. The level of trauma in our society, when you look at these vets, when you look at these school kids, and you hear politicians talk a lot about my 10-point plan and this 10-point plan, and I got the answer for this, and I got the answer for that. We don't come together. We don't heal the wounds of the country. We're going nowhere. That's the stark reality of this. And it concerns me deeply, as it should concern you, because it's about our kids. Is this where we're going to leave our kids? This mess? And we're going to be right, right? Nope, I'm right. It's not about being right. It's about getting stuff done and moving the ball down the field and making progress, finding what our common values are, our common goals. These are American problems. These aren't problems for Akron or Youngstown or Cleveland. These are our problems. All of us. And you know what? It's going to take the private sector. It's going to take a new, innovative, streamlined government that isn't built for the last century. It's going to take a new, innovative, thoughtful, dynamic education system. Innovative, both K through 12 and community colleges and universities. It's going to take new creative ways of financing how we move forward. And if we don't, I will just tell you that we have two peer competitors breathing down our throats. We are not just going to wake up every morning and say, you know what, we're America. No one's ever going to be greater than us. And just go on to our day and get into the same old bad habits and get divided and get on the TV shows and scream and yell at each other and pick a side. Go on the websites you like. They'll confirm your beliefs, whichever they are. Because you know who likes us being divided? Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin loves what's going on here, right? I sit on the defense committee and we go on all these briefings. I'm not going to tell you anything secret, but I'll tell you later when the microphones are off. But I'll tell you, Vladimir Putin loves this stuff. You know why? They have, through their military, through the Russian military, they go on all of our social media and they find the cultural rifts, the political and cultural rifts in our society. And it could be NFL football, whether you're standing or kneeling for the national anthem. It could be an issue of gun violence. It could be an issue with the police. It could be a racial issue. It could be anything that would get us a little bit into our own camps. And then here come the Russians with their bots and social media, and they throw gasoline on it because they love us being divided. Absolutely love it. Because then they can take some terrain in the Ukraine, they can fly their planes past our ships, right? They can divide. The United States is distracted. They're shutting down the government. How many times have we shut down the government? So if they see that happening, they pump social media, get everybody all cranked up. I'm for the wall, I'm not for the wall. We shut down the government. Russia's going, this is great. American government's not even up and running. We didn't fire a shot. And that brings me to the next point, is because Russia's got basically a petro economy. They're based on oil and gas, and they don't have nearly the economy, but what they do get in, they put out into energy and military. Who's waiting behind them? China. Okay? We're having some real straight talk here. This is what's happening when we're not screaming at each other. China is sitting back, and they have a 100-year plan. 100 years. Is that unbelievable? They are building islands in the South China Sea, and they told us 4 or 5 years ago, we'll never put a military base on there. Don't worry about that. Okay, no problem. We got a military base on there now, right? Flying planes on and off. Building islands, okay? They are building ports in Africa, in Asia, in the Middle East. They're building ports so they can bring product in and out of these other countries. They are locking down long-term contracts in Africa for raw materials. They go into these poor African countries, pay everybody off, take the raw materials, sign the contracts, bring in Chinese workers to work there so the African people don't even get to work, and they begin to build this infrastructure. They have a plan called Belt Road Initiative. They are building, I saw a map the other day, they are building a railroad line from northeast China to Prague. They are on the move. They want to be number one in the top 10 industries in the next 10 to 15 years. Artificial intelligence, additive manufacturing, aerospace, space, satellites, telecommunication, internet. They are running circles around us with 5G service. We are locked into 4G in America. And that has tremendous military and economic implications. So, if you want to go outside and jump off the bridge now, I'll open it up and you can leave. And then we'll do question and answer after. One gentleman's taking me away. So that is where we are today. And so I just want to share a couple thoughts and then we'll open it up for questions. We got to come together, we got to listen. And we've got to really listen. And what Bobby Kennedy said was, what is objectionable? What is dangerous about extremists is not that they are extreme, but that they are intolerant. The evil is not what they say about their cause. The evil is what they say about their opponents. We have got to come together. We have got the answers in our country. We have got the ability to innovate, to create, to solve problems, many of which are doing here in Summit County. We've got to build an economy where we're not based on fear, which is the last point I want to make. We can't go into this environment full of fear. And I worry every single day that the country is paralyzed by fear. We're afraid to move one way or the other. We're afraid to listen. We're afraid to come together. And I believe if we can get past this fear, the fear of people criticizing us, the fear of having a new idea, the fear of changing, we have got to change. There are great solutions out there if we're not afraid to make them and to do them and to implement them. You look at social and emotional learning in the schools, which directly affects the trauma that these kids are facing every single day. If a robust social and emotional learning program is put into a school, K through 12, 11 percentile point increase in test scores. 10% increase in good behavior, 10% decrease in antisocial behavior. 20% swing in the mood of the school. It's out there. It's happening. We just got to scale it up. When you look at technology, one last stat. When the steel mills closed in Youngstown in the 1970s, the technology in the steel mills, was pre-World War I. And Youngstown got wiped out. So what I'm saying, and what Danny as mayor is saying, what Eileen is saying, is we can't run from artificial intelligence. We can't run from additive manufacturing. We need to grab it. We need to embrace it. We need to dominate those industries. We need to inject that technology into our old industries. We need to ramp up production, which it will do if we're not afraid to do it. And then cut the workers in on the deal with productivity bonuses and profit sharing. Make sure that we can boost the middle class back up if we're not afraid. And this is going to take every single one of us. Not just the congressmen, not just the mayor, city council. We've got to do this. We can't be afraid because we're running out of time. With the environment, with the economy, with the educational institutions, we're running out of time. We need to listen to each other. There's a difference between discernment and judgment. We don't have to judge. We can have differences and hammer them out and get the best of the private sector, get the best of the free market, get the best of the capitalistic system, and get the best of the government, and the best of the education institutions, and the best of democracy. And let's get it together. And let's not be afraid. As Teddy Roosevelt said, it's not the critic who counts. Not the man or woman who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man or the woman in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if she fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. We can do this, we can come together, we can make a difference if we care about each other, we love each other, we work together, and we tap into what's best in the American DNA, and that's leading the world into a more compassionate state for all people. Thank you.